An area that we can all improve on is the decision-making skills that we have. What specifically goes into the decisions that we make, how we make decisions, why we make decisions, why we act certain ways. And I'm going to be talking about that today based on my perspective and what I think is most important when making a decision. And I hope that you guys find some value in this. So supposedly based on research, every single day we make about 33 to 35,000 decisions. And whether we like it or not, every decision that we make has a consequence, either it be good or bad. And we have to reap the results of what those consequences are. And I want to dive into what I think is most important when making a decision. So if you're a student athlete, maybe you're thinking about transferring, right? There's this NIL, there's the transfer portal. Maybe you think you can put yourself in a better position to get to the next level. Maybe you're, second string, third string, fourth string. There's a few guys in front of you, and you feel like you deserve a shot, so you are starting to look elsewhere. Or maybe you're in a job and you're starting to look for better opportunities, within the space that you're in. Or maybe you're looking to transition into a new career, start fresh. Maybe there's more money, etc. Same thing with relationships, right? Who do we marry? Should we marry? Should we break up? Should we have kids? Where should you live? There's a million questions and thoughts to think about in many aspects of our lives. And so I want to start off by just sharing a quick story on a decision that I made in my past that, not that I regret now. I think I developed a ton of strength from it and a pretty good mindset from it. But while I was going through it, I definitely regretted the decision. And the reason for that is because I think it was an emotion-based or an emotion-driven decision. And before I get into the story, I think prayer, logistics, and emotion are three components of making a good decision. I'll get into that after I share the story. But basically, I was recruited to play football at Syracuse. I went up there. I played on a full scholarship my freshman season. I played a fair amount. I was a third down guy. They put me in to rush the passer. My second year, I had a great, going into my sophomore year, my second year, spring ball, had a great spring ball, was lined up looking to be the second string guy. Same thing, was going to be a third down guy. But going from my freshman year to my sophomore year, the coaches that recruited me got fired. A new staff came in. I produced well in spring ball under the new staff. We had fall camp, produced well there. And we started getting into season, and I was getting less and less play time, but I was producing pretty well. And long story short, I had about 15 meetings with the coaches, and what they ended up telling me was that I'll never see the field because my ceiling wasn't as high as the guys that they had brought in. And at that point in time, I was producing a lot more than what the other guys were. Not the first string guys. I'm not saying that I should have been a first string guy, but I should have been the second string guy, just based on the film and pure facts, based on stats. And when they told me this, I made up in my mind, this was the last time I met with them, my 15th meeting with them, and I made up my mind and I said, listen, I'm transferring. I went home. I didn't tell them at that point in time, but I went home and I knew in my mind that I was transferring. What I will say is that I didn't take into account a lot of factors. I didn't ask the right questions. I was so locked in on the fact that I was transferring. Nothing mattered. And again, it was a decision driven on emotion. And one thing I'll point out is that most factors were things that I would only find out or come to know about after I made the decision and I was already in that place. So for example, when I transferred out to Lafayette College, I struggled very bad with, had a tough time in school. And honestly, I thought I was going to fail out, so I was thinking I was going to have to transfer again. And I was in a super bad position mentally, struggling in school. I was playing not to the level of how I used to hold myself of playing on the field. And mentally, I was just in a bad spot. And really just kept digging myself further in a hole mentally because I wasn't playing good. I was basically failing school. But what I will say with that is that God puts us through certain obstacles and hurdles to eventually get us to certain results. And so there's always going to be the barriers that are going to come up, like my brother and I always talk about. but God is going to open the doors that need to be open and close the doors that need to be shut. And at that point in time, God closed the door on Syracuse, right? I made my decision, I transferred, but after I transferred, I was, having second thoughts. And that's one thing that I'll say, that when you make a decision, you need to be all in on the decision that you made. You can't, that rearview mirror is a lot smaller than the front windshield for a reason. You can't think about what happened in the past and what it could have been if you stayed, or if you didn't make the move, or if you didn't make that decision, or if you made a certain decision, the result could have been X, Y, or Z. The fact of the matter is that you made a decision, and you have to be all in to make that work out to the best that you can. And like I said, God will get you through and help you get through those obstacles, develop your strength, develop whatever it is that he's putting you through, to make the next right decision, basically. And so with that said, reverting this back to the three principles that I think are important when making a decision, the first being prayer. So in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, it says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." So before you make a decision, clear your mind, ask for God's guidance, pray on it. Don't make a rash decision. Don't feel like you have to rush to make a decision. And if someone's rushing you to make a decision, then just remove it basically from your life, because there's no point in making a rush or rash decision for somebody else. The decision has to be solely based on you. And so moving on to the next piece, logistics, and there's a few Bible verses that I want to lay out here. So Proverbs chapter 6, verse 2, it says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." So God gives us all the wisdom, he gives us all the knowledge, and he gives us all the understanding. We really have to use that to our benefit and rely on him through prayer, through his guidance, but to really think through all the potential options, all the pros and all the cons, and weigh those out. Write them down and really come to an understanding, right? And that will take me to my next point, which comes from Luke chapter 14, verse 28. And so this says, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it?" And so when you make or start to make a decision, now you have to plan for it, right? You don't just go and say, "Oh, I'm going to go build a house," and get no architect, have no GC. You just build a house based on a thought. You have to put a plan together and map out what that plan is going to look like. The last piece within the logistics there's two more pieces. So 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21, it says, "Test everything. Hold on to what is good," right? And so reverting back to my story at Syracuse, I didn't test everything. So they told me that I would never see the field as a defensive tackle. They didn't tell me I'd never see the field as an offensive lineman, as a fullback, or as any other position. And that's not to say that I could have went out and played any other position and would have been playing, but I didn't test everything that was available to me. And so, for example, maybe if you're thinking about transferring, there's this NIL money. Is there room to negotiate? Is there room to go back to where you are? Because the grass may not be greener on the other side. The grass a lot of times is green where you water it. So evaluate all the options that you have laid out in front of you. Is there room to negotiate? Same thing with the job. If you're looking externally, in the same industry, career change, etc., is there room to go back to your employer and say, and negotiate, can I make more money? Is there room for me to make more money? Is there room for me to move here? What does the progression look like to get to X? Get an understanding and lay it all out and map out. Think about all the right questions that you need to ask. Again, don't make a rash decision because you feel like you need to make a quick decision. Never allow someone else's pressure force you to make a rash decision. And so 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline." And this leads me right to my last point, which is emotion, right? When people say, don't let emotion drive your decision, I agree with that to an extent, but we're humans and we have emotions. So what we have to do, like it says in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, is have that self-discipline to not allow us to make emotion-driven decisions. Allow that emotion to motivate you and drive you, like I thought it would when I was told that I would never see the field. But I quickly realized when I got to Lafayette, there was a lot of factors that played into that, and that emotion that I had of, I'm going to see the field. At that point in time, I thought I put myself in a better position academically. Lafayette College was a better school. The coach had ties to the NFL, and I was like, what better opportunity than this? I'm getting a great education. I'm playing right away, because at that point in time, we had to sit out if we wanted to transfer from, let's say ACC to ACC. So I took a step down. I went to D1 AA, went to Lafayette College, played right away. Thought, I have a great access to the NFL, and there was a lot of these external factors that really just destroyed my mental. So we have to have the self-discipline. It says it right there. God gives us the self-discipline. We can't allow our emotion to take control and drive us and force us into a decision. All three are very important when making a decision, and I hope that you guys find value in this. And if you do, please make sure to subscribe and turn the notifications on this channel. Make sure to share it with a friend. Leave a comment. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate the time.